to A Well-Designed Business. My name is Luann Nigara, and I'm so glad you found this podcast. Together with my husband Vince and our partner Bill, we have grown our company Window Works from the ground up. So I know and I understand the challenges you face in running your interior design business. I also know that your talent alone isn't enough to ensure your success. So on this podcast, we talk about strategies and practical steps to help you grow your business. But make no mistake about it, we have our share of fun here too, mixed in with those aha moments that I love so much. This isn't fluff. Nobody has time for that. Whether you are a new interior designer or a seasoned designer, I am here to help you create and to manage the kind of interior design firm that you dream of. It's straight talk and it's action. Are you ready? Let's get started. Hi, welcome to another episode of A Well-Designed Business. Today, Carole Marcotte from Form and Function in Raleigh, North Carolina joins me. Carole, before officially beginning her interior design business, which was just over 10 years ago, has followed several paths while raising her 3 children. Carole herself was raised in Canada, and her career began in marketing and special events for a private women's club in Toronto. Then later she worked at a radio station, and in 1987 she moved to North Carolina. An old house renovation fueled her interest in architecture and design, and she unofficially began to help friends and family with design work. For many years she did this while she also operated a catering and special events business. She also was acting on local stages for more than 20 years. She has sat on many nonprofit boards, most notably conceiving of and planning Raleigh's largest public art project, the Raleigh Red Wolf Ramble, while she also co-chaired the City of Raleigh Arts Commission. Then, in 2008, she began to officially do design work. Then, 2013, she expanded the business to include a storefront with classic and funky vintage pieces alongside new Made in America and upcycled gift selections. Carole has been honored as one of Midtown Magazine's 30 People You Need to Know for her work as producer of the Design District Raleigh map. Now, you're going to hear Carole and I talk about this map today. It's a heck of a project that she put together. The idea is genius. And I want to say, if you have an interior design studio firm located in an area that of your town that has more than a couple design and design-related type shops or boutiques in it, be sure to pay attention and listen to this part of the interview. I absolutely love what Carole has done. Now, before we get to the interview, let's remember to thank our sponsors. We have Article.com, and don't forget, you can sign up for your trade program at welldesigned.article.com. Please use the URL welldesigned.article.com. And if you are not familiar with Article.com, it is an online-only resource for mid-century Scandinavian-inspired furniture. I love 2 things. I'm a broken record. I mean, the furniture's good. The furniture's beautiful. Okay. You know, that's not my jam. Okay. But it is very pretty and very beautiful. But my jam is how they approach the business. That's what I love. Number 1, the trade program is run by interior designers. So they talk your language. So helpful. Okay. The second thing is their delivery and return program. Outstanding the way they do it. The options that you have and how easy it is really something to be, to just literally make you take notice and look into them for that reason alone. So it's welldesigned.article.com. All right. Also, upcoming live events. First of all, if you are not on my email list, I would suggest being on my email list. If you'd like to do that, head over to, just all you have to do is text 444-999. Text the word design biz, no caps, no spaces, okay? Because you will be notified when I'm going to be in an area near you. You can also always go to my website, luannniagara.com and click on the events and coaching tab. Okay. So coming up around the corner, I'm going to be at the Philadelphia Design Center on January 30th at the Lucas Alexander showroom. On February 8th, I'm going to be at Design Summit in New York, which is being hosted by ASID New York Metro, and I'll be doing a panel discussion there. February 12th, I'm going to be at the Boston Design Center at the Waterworks showroom, and I will be doing a panel discussion there as well. And of course, in the middle of all that, let's not forget, we have our birthday party. Yep, that's right. The podcast is turning 3 years old this February, and we are going to have a tremendous party at Cravit at the D&D building on February 5th. That is going to be from 5:30 to 7:30 p.m. So please, that party, all of these, you have to RSVP to, okay? All of them, all right? But especially the Cravit birthday party, because Cravit is, going to put out some food and some wine and things for us, and they need to know how much to have. I mean, all of them need to know that. But please, for those things, either go to the individual websites for these places, the Boston Design Center, the Philadelphia Design Center, or you easily can find it on my website at luannniagara.com. and click on attend a live event. All righty, let me introduce you to Carole. Hi, Carole. Thanks so much for joining me on A Well-Designed Business today.
Thank you, Luann. I'm glad to be here.
So, Carole, you have been introduced to me through my great friend, Nicole Heimer of Curio Electro. I just adore her. And she suggested that you and her had worked together. She created your website too, right?
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yes, in 2016. Mm-hmm.
And I love your website, by the way. It's really, 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 really pretty. And I love the way, sounds like I actually know what I'm talking about, but what I do love is that I move through it. I move through the navigation. It makes me want to keep moving. And so I don't say that from a technical standpoint. I say that from a user, like I really did want to keep scrolling and clicking and moving around. So, but I'm not surprised because she is just brilliant, isn't she?
She's a genius. I owe a lot to her for helping with the retooling and rebranding of my business. She's awesome.
I know. And and if you're new to the show, Nicole has been on my show 2 times, both episode 125 and number 317. And I have to say, it might sound overly whatever word you want to put to it. But the truth is that I take every opportunity I can to sing Nicole's praises because I 110% believe in her ability to help a business owner, particularly an interior designer, but she does any business, to really clarify their brand message. I mean, it is a legitimate superpower of hers. Would you agree, Carole?
Yes, absolutely. Her process is just amazing. She takes you through thoughts about your business, your model, the style, the color palette, down to the fonts, everything that you want for the whole branding of your business. And then also we really took a serious look at my packages and services, and it's a several month process, and it makes you really, really think your business. You may think you know your business and it may be working for you, but she really helped elevate not only my website, but my business overall.
I often say to people when I recommend her to a designer that might need a rebrand or a reboot of their website, I say it's like therapy for your business. Right? Like she really does dig in and ask you these questions that it might have been never or many years that you have considered some of these really very important questions about the philosophies that you have for running your own business.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's interesting. I love the process. I think it's interesting. So, all right. So that's my, commercial for Nicole, because I really do. I can't go by it. I have to always say how much I truly believe in what she does. And it's sort of, the other reason I like to bring it up is because I feel the same way. It is her process. It's not by accident. She doesn't get there by accident. She doesn't ultimately figure out what your color should be or your font should be or your messaging should be by accident. And I think that's very relatable to interior designers, right? So a lot of times a designer knows that they can create a great room, but maybe they haven't thought about the process that they bring their client through in creating that room. And it's so much nicer as the consumer, as the purchaser, to feel like the person on the other end actually has a legitimate, thought out, step-by-step way of approaching what it is that they do as an expert. And so don't you think that's very important for interior designers to do as well?
Yes, absolutely. It makes us look better. Maybe her process makes us look like we know what we're doing better for sure. For sure.
Exactly. But you got to bring that to your business now, right? You have to bring that to your business. So the other thing is that I think what's interesting about your website in you really very clearly talk about, obviously, I'm sure with the help of Nicole, but who and what you do as an interior designer, what your niche is. Tell us a little bit about what your niche is and what it means to you and how you arrived at the clarity of it.
Yes, so when I started doing design work officially 10 years ago, because prior to that I was doing it unofficially for family and friends, as I'm sure lots of folks out there can relate. I was still at home with my children. I had a husband who was commuting back and forth to Washington, D.C. every week. So my priority was really my children, and I just wanted to kind of get my feet on the ground and establish myself, but I didn't want to go, full on out, with a 50-hour week kind of situation. So I just sort of really examined what did I want to do? And what I really wanted to do was to help people with their existing decor, because I could tell just from friends and family that most everybody had a lot of things and had a lot of meaningful things that they already owned. And I wanted to help them bring those items to the best light, in their best light. And that sometimes meant just shifting things around and, creating gallery walls, bringing collections together, moving furniture. Sometimes it meant taking the furniture out, getting it reupholstered, getting custom drapes made, getting the house painted first. But it was really just identifying things that were really important to people. And I don't want to kind of insinuate that I was a professional organizer, but that sort of ended up being kind of a result of doing this process with people, because when you kind of bring the most important things and highlight them, then there's this pile of stuff left over, and it's sort of allowed people to just say goodbye. I don't need
like,
that.
What am I doing with this stuff, right? I don't actually, so you're going through and you are working with a homeowner to say, I can almost hear, what are the non-negotiables? What are the things that must stay in the space? What are the things that are important and precious to you, right?
Absolutely. That is the first question of the day. Very good. You're always inside our heads, Luann. I love that about you. But that is funny. Truly the first question. That is the first question we ask when we've asked them to do their homework, which is to get everything into the dining room. I feel like it's probably the least used room of the year, except around holiday time. So they can, if stuff's hanging on the wall or already out, we just say leave it. But if you've got stuff kind of lurking in closets or, things that belong to your mother that you just have always wanted to do something with but didn't know, and, books, accessories, everything, get it all out in the dining room, lean the art against the walls, get it all up, because then we have one central place from which to shop effectively.
Okay.
And so we go in there at the beginning of the process and we say, all right, just like what you said, what are the non-negotiables? What Aunt Lily's, ashtray or something like that.
Right. Like weird, odd things, right?
Right. That have some meaning and some connection to that person that's so different and unexplainable to anyone because it's so personal. Right. And then there'll be this like, well, if you can use this, that'd be great. But it's okay if you don't. And then, this stuff over here, whatever. So they've already figured it out, then my mind is going, well, then why is it still here in the house?
Yes, why is it? Yeah, right. And why did you bring it to the dining room? This was supposed to be the
Right,
non-negotiables.
right. But
Okay.
non-judgmental.
Right.
We're
It's
trying
the
not
inside
to.
voice and the outside voice.
That's right. But it's good because it sort of, I think that process maybe pushes them to the edge to make that decision that this
Mm.
pile is, I'm okay. And so what we try to do at the end of the day too is we try to get that stuff in the garage, get it out so that
Right,
it's
get it
not even,
away so it
get
can't
it
make its
out.
way back.
Right. We want to have the HGTV moment. So I don't want to have stuff laying around in a hallway or anything. I want it all out anyway, but then it's sort of that helps them one more step to get it in the back seat of the car, the trunk, and get it out of the house. So
Right,
so
to
we're not like, we're not doing professional organizer things, and I'm not trained for that or anything. But we, just by nature of what we do, that happens. And I think it really makes people happy because they have what's remaining is the most meaningful to them.
Mm. I like this process. And the thing what I like about it is that I hadn't thought about that people would have things tucked away in closets and boxes and attics that they knew were there and never brought out. But when you make them think about it, it's like, that's right. Okay, let's see if she can help me place that somewhere. I was thinking just reorganizing the things that are out in the open. But people, if you look, I'm not a tchotchke person, and I'm not a decoratory person. Like, I did that first. I did that in my second house. We built the house from the ground up, and I did it. I decorated it, designed it to the nines. Every little nook and cranny had a beautiful vignette, and everywhere you looked, it was absolutely amazing. I'm over it. Like, I don't want stuff around me anymore, right? So I do have a lot of that stuff in boxes. When I moved and we downsized, I was cutthroat about everything, but I probably have, half a dozen things that in my mind I went, all right, I'll be just a tiny bit sentimental and not get rid of these. But if I were to ever really take this step of saying, okay, let me put some things out in front of me again and let me do this, you're right. I would be like, I do have that box of stuff. That'd be nice to have out. So that's interesting that you add that layer. I like that. So, but now you have leaned into this niche. Now, we understand that other designers might be doing this one-off times, will randomly say, you need new bedroom furniture, but I'm going to rework some of your existing accessories, or that painting that you have in the downstairs, whatever, would look really great in your bedroom. So we're not to say that it's not a completely unique process, but the thing is that you lead with this, that this is what you do, correct?
Yes, we lead with it, and we help them through the process a little beyond that day that I was discussing.
Okay.
So if we've identified some things that need work, in fact, I just did a wonderful, gorgeous mid-century house over in Chapel Hill, which is not too far from Raleigh. And that day, we had some artwork that needed some reframing, some retooling, some new glass in one piece. And he left that day during the process and went immediately to the framers. He was so inspired. So we're also helping them say, all right, if we're going to keep this piece, let's reframe it. I think it would do better in this frame. And so we're helping them. And this there's a lot of times we're ending up with a redesign day after we've done a whole other series of services for these clients. Okay. We've had the house painted, we've had the house renovated, we've had, custom seamstress work done, bedding, drapery, that sort of thing. And then we're arriving at this final day. And perhaps we've had some of these things, like I've talked about, reframing, that sort of thing. We've had that stuff done. So we've done a whole series of things a lot of times before we arrive at this day.
Okay.
And then there's some clients who are just a consultation and this day. And then those clients are the ones where we might say, all right, here's my list of things. You do need a rug in the dining room. You do need this. This needs to be reframed. This needs to be reupholstered, whatever. And we create a little list for them. Now, whether we help them, achieve those goals or not, that varies with client to client. But we're trying to make it full service so that we're not just sort of leaving them in a lurch saying, yeah, we think you should get these reframed, but We don't tell them where to go or whatever,
Right.
but we'll tell them where to go, how to get it done, and we'll also put placeholders, sometimes even cut out pieces of paper where they should hang it.
Right.
We've saved this wall for that collection, that art
Mm-hmm.
collection that was your mother's or something. So we're a little bit more, I think we're a little bit more detailed. Like I said, we're not reinventing the wheel. This is a service that other designers do, but I think we take the whole meaningful process and the family history, we take it a little bit further. We really, really try to honor what is theirs or what may be hidden. And let me tell you, if it's not in the dining room and if there's not enough stuff out, I will go in closets and attics. I am that person. And I warned them ahead of time. I said, if I don't see enough stuff out, because I know you've been telling me about stuff, I will go in your closets and up the stairs to the attic and down to the basement. We found like this beautiful coffee table hiding in a basement one time. We couldn't figure out what kind of coffee table to use in the living room, and went down to the basement and went, well, what the heck? Oh, that's great. So we're all over. We're all over the house.
Okay. And so this is the thing about what is your you, right? Is that we often talk about with designers on the show how they will come in and they will select the paint and select the big major furniture pieces for a particular client, and then the client doesn't design to completion. They leave the accessory part of it out, and that's really the final layer that makes the magic sparkle, right? Makes it all happening. But what the difference here is that you're not just doing this layer when someone says, and I want to use my own stuff. You're leading with, I want you to know I expect and intend and want to have this be part of the process, to bring and reuse from all different rooms of your house to make this room or these series of rooms the best they can be. Is that correct?
That's correct. Okay. And that does allow me to come in and photograph it, because even if it's got layers of new stuff that we've brought in or new furniture pieces or whatever, we've been able to fully stylize the house. And that is really important. And I've heard you talk about that with recently. I listened to one I know it's escaping me which episode, but where I think it was with the photographer
Stephen Carlish.
Yes, and talking about that, not being able to have that final layer.
Right.
And it was very heartbreaking to me. The largest job I ever worked on, I wasn't allowed to do that. And it was the largest job I worked on. And I couldn't photograph it because when I went back to check on it was a whole renovation of a massive house and start to finish. And they just layered it with their tchotchkes and layered it with just artwork and stuff. And we weren't able to, and it would have been fine maybe had I been able to place it, but it was not in a way that we could even go in. Because sometimes on a photo shoot day, the clients have moved things around a little bit and we have to go in and, I'll be honest, we have to go in and tweak it a little bit so that it is photo shoot ready, but it's mostly left as we did it. But this was a house I was unable to photograph. And that was kind of heartbreaking. It's like you do all this work and you're like, oh my gosh.
Exactly. So let me just ask you a little bit about something. You said in there when you were describing that particular project, I wasn't allowed to do that, meaning I wasn't allowed to finish accessorizing it to completion, to the way it would look photograph ready, that they layered their own nonsense in whichever way, and probably in the wrong way. It was the intent, the inference I took from it. Okay. So we have talked about that on the show before. So for instance, I'm thinking Pulp Design Studios. They were the first ones, Beth Dutolo and Carolina Gentry. They were the first ones that used the phrase to me, designed to completion. So they are at the point in their career that when at the beginning of the project, the client doesn't sign on to design to completion, you're not their client. Thank you very much. Let me refer you to somebody else. So, and I know that there's a decision on their part, right? So not everybody has to make that decision. So my question for you is it that you don't have that decision as your firm, that you're okay if some person doesn't want to design to completion and some do, but that particular one sort of broke your heart a little bit more because maybe the project was a bigger, better project before the point of being not designed to completion? Or is it that you're striving for that and haven't figured that out for yourself yet?
Yes, I think I don't require a design to completion, and I love that term. It would be wonderful if we all had that opportunity.
Right, right.
And
It's
I
not
I
easy.
don't want to, yeah, and I don't want to deter any, particular client. So it's just that particular project, because it was a 12,000 square foot home.
Mm.
That is not my usual client, and because it would have required so much moving to get it to a place. So, like I said, we've gone in and have had to move things for photo shoots for other jobs,
Hmm.
slight tweaks. This would have been
A
like,
full-on crew
for
to like
yeah,
say
yeah,
your living room is half bare because you didn't let me get enough accessories, so I can grab it from the whole
right,
house to make it look like a real room. I understand now.
right.
Okay,
So
right,
that's
right.
why. So it was just that particular job. And I just want to pick the best and also the most diverse selection of jobs when I'm doing photo shoot days. We're usually doing like, 4 to 6 houses over 2 days with my photographer. We're like whipping through these houses and getting a lot of stuff shot. And so I want to just, because my website's different, because I don't have a particular look. It's just everything is very unique because it really is more a reflection of that client and what they had. And we're just kind of helping them select furnishings and everything, kind of going with the look that they've already started or that they express. Like one client, she said, I want my house to look like it just came out of Southern Living magazine. So, and she's darling and love that couple. And so we kind of went with that, right?
Mhm.
So, but then the next, portfolio next to it is this mid-century house in Chapel Hill I was talking about earlier, and completely, I mean, worlds apart. And
Mm.
so I'm picking, portfolios that I have designed to completion, but they're all very different. And I have had the opportunity to do that kind of final layer, but it's not a requirement. And maybe that's something to aspire to. But so far, it's kind of worked for us,
Hmm.
how we've been doing it.
Okay. And so there's something interesting in there that I feel like at the beginning of my journey in the podcast 3 years ago, this sentence would not have surprised me one bit to say when you said, look, this one client's asking for a look that looks like Southern Living, another client's looking for mid-century look design. Okay. Now I have to say, especially in this last 8-9 months of basically the 2018, it seems that there is such a consistent conversation from almost guest after guest that it's create a not a signature look. I mean, some do, of course, but there is a look. Like I want all clean, white cabinets, white design, marble countertops. And of course, we all know as people who critique interior design, you can show us in the industry 6 kitchens that are quote unquote the same, but in the industry we're going to see the differences, right? But the regular layperson just sees the broad stroke of the white cabinet, the white, countertops and blah blah blah. So it doesn't mean, hear me very clearly, all of my people out there, it doesn't mean that there aren't significant differences in the design of the quote unquote, say, white rustic farmhouse kitchen, right? Okay, we get that. We know the layer that's different. We know the multiple layers that are different. But I feel like you're the first person in a long time that's really willing to just say, yeah, sometimes I design this way and sometimes I design that way. And I like it. What do you say to
Well,
that?
I I say bless the designers who have their look and people call them for that look, because
Mm-hmm.
you can have a steady business that way,
Mm-hmm.
because you're not going out seeking clients. Clients are looking to you because they love your look, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you have this beautiful, all white or whatever clean look.
Whatever it is, yeah.
And yeah, and though there are so many designers making a lot of money doing that, and that's awesome. But I just sort of, from early on, because I took the approach of reuse and redesign and just really wanting to kind of honor existing decor and heirlooms and that sort of thing, you take on what you get.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that doesn't mean that I can't say no or decide I'm not going to work on a project for various reasons, not
Right.
because I don't, not because it's a particular look. It's just, it's either personality fit, other things. But by nature of what I do, there's just going to be a whole diversity of projects, and
Right.
it's going to look kind of cray-cray to some people out there if they go to my website.
Right,
It's
right,
just
right.
it's just very different. And but I am appealing to certain people, and then there's certain people that are gonna, if they click on one portfolio and they don't go to another portfolio, if say they click on my Spanish house, which happens to be my Spanish house, my own home, if they click on that and they think that my house is going to be what I'm going to make their house look like, but they don't go to the next portfolio and realize, oh, she's got a very clean, modern house.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I like that. But if they don't do that, if they click on one portfolio, then I may be losing out on certain people. But that's the risk I take. I really, really, truly want to honor what people are already doing, but help guide them and help. Sometimes when I'm dealing with like very antique heavy, very dark, older home, we do help give it like a little modern spin. There's a way to incorporate family silhouettes, and I've got this one lovely client. He's a repeat client. I did him when he was a bachelor, his first home, and now he's remarried, and he's got this incredible connection to North Carolina political history, just outstanding portraits of people that are connected to the important politics in the state, and silhouettes of just beautiful things, but hanging in the way we've hung them is just so modern and fresh on a clean paint background. It's not stodgy, it's not old, it's fresh, it's modern. There's chinoiserie wallpaper we've selected, and everything, it's lovely, but it's not so I can still guide people, even with their existing collection, to have sort of a fresh modern spin on what they have. Just to clarify, I want to make sure that people aren't thinking, oh, she's just going in there and rearranging,
moving all the crap around and making it look different.
Right.
No.
Yeah. We are hand holding and guiding them.
Yes. And what I love about it is because I guess what I was trying to express is that it seems that on the show, there's been a lot of just quite naturally a series of interior designers who do aspire to a particular look, to be recognized for a look because they love it and that's where their sweet spot is. And they talk about how to attract that exact look. But the reality is, in real life, when I'm at live events or in my coaching, people will often say to me, well, what if I don't have a look? Or what if I don't want to have a look? What if I don't want everything to have that recognizable thing? And I think that this is awesome because I know that there are going to be colleagues of yours that are listening and thinking, okay, so, and here's that layer, that Fred Burns, your only layer that comes into it, right? Is where you are hammering in on, when I go to your website and I see the Spanish home and the mid-century home, I don't get that disjointed feeling because when I read the narrative, you're telling me that you are committed to redesign, and you're telling me that you're committed to reusing, and you're telling me that you're committed to bringing your personal treasures together and, like you said, guiding you to create a home that honors these things but freshens, enlivens, and renews it. So you see, I'm just expressing that is a common thing that designers ask me, and this is the perfect way to answer it, is what I like about this.
Well, good. I'm glad to hear that because I sometimes think, it may appear crazy, but I don't know any other way to do it. When I walk into somebody's home, it's really informing. Their space, and some people maybe do need a little push in a certain direction stylistically. We'll have that discussion. Right. But to me, it's so evident. It's right there, and I'm just like, wow, you are, well, in the case at one moment, you are Southern living. She wanted Southern living. And you in talking to them in that initial consultation, which is so critical, that 2 hours that I devote is very critical in understanding what they want and the processes and the services that are going to lead up to this, hopefully this ultimate redesign day where we're going to be able to pull it all together. That 2 hours it allows me to really decide the direction that's going to make them happy. And I would say, 99% of the time, everybody is happy because you've gone in the direction that they want and that they've already started and they can't finish it and they can't pull it together.
Right, right. And I also want to just make the clarification that you made towards the beginning of the conversation is that sometimes this process does happen after you have done the redesign of the paint and maybe major furniture pieces or rugs and stuff like this. And then it's just that design to completion layer is also just very inclusive of their own personal belonging, as opposed to all new lamps, all new this, right? You're bringing those things in. If they have a pair of lamps that they love, whether they were Aunt Sally's or they were their own, you're going to figure out a way to incorporate them somehow, hopefully. How about are there times when you just have to say, yeah, this isn't going to work here? Like, does that ever happen? Or do you just figure out a way to make it work because it's your commitment to them and you're talented and you can figure it out?
Well, if it's on the non-negotiable list that we referenced earlier,
yes.
I'm going to have to make it work.
Yeah,
going to have to make it work. It may go into a back guest bedroom or somewhere. But you know,
it could be in the garage. No.
Yeah.
No, okay. So that's the thing. You do totally honor the non-negotiable items no matter how absurd they are. You just figure out a way to make them have something. But then is there sort of things where they think they're a non-negotiable, but maybe you explain how like scale or function or form is not going to be good for this room, and then maybe they will give it up? Or
well, in the case of when we're dealing with folks, which has become sort of a big part of my niche market in the downsizing or moving or joining together of two households, it hasn't been seen in that new space or that new home. So that sometimes is a real bargaining chip, right? Because you're like, oh gosh, I know this was something we absolutely were supposed to use, but I just can't find a place for it. And it's not any putting any personal stamp or being judgmental about the piece. It's just truly,
right.
Especially when we're dealing with like a large piece of furniture or something, which hopefully we've gone over that. And, if I haven't had the ability to measure in the new space, I'm kind of banking on the fact that they've thought through that process by the time they get over there. A lot of times lately now I'm doing initial consultations where we hop from one place to another so that I get to see both spaces.
Okay.
But that happens where it's just a piece of furniture. The scale's not right. It just doesn't work in the new space. So, at that point, there was one where it was a massive, massive armoire, and nobody really uses armoires anymore. We had them all for our massive, massive TVs.
Right. Now they're
right?
hang on the wall.
Oh my gosh. And there's so many, thrift stores with armoires in them. It's unbelievable. If somebody could figure out a way to repurpose those, that'd be great.
Right.
But so that they desperately wanted to move it. And we had the floor plan of the new condominium they were moving into. And I mean, there was no place for that piece. There was no place. It would have sacrificed seating and that sort of thing. So when we have that ability to map it out and do a floor plan and that sort of thing, then we can really help with the larger pieces. And as far as the decorative items, we will truly do our best to honor those pieces. But like I said, if we don't want to put it in front and center in the living room or whatever, we'll tuck it in some. And it's more often than not, even if it's in a guest bedroom, if it's like some family sentimental piece, they're just happy that you have found a place for it. They really are. It doesn't have to be in the foreground or the main entertaining area. They're just happy.
It's true. It's true. I can see that. Okay, so that's awesome. I love it. I love that you have leaned into this. It's clearly it's your passion. It's not. That's the one thing about the conversations that Fred Burns has had on the show, and Nancy Ganskaufer, niche is rich and broad is broke, and of course even Nicole in her conversations about branding, is that it has to be real for you as the designer, whatever it is. And the thing about it is it doesn't have to be a huge thing. It just has to be what you really resonate with. And in your case, you really do resonate with the reuse, the redesign, the making of the happy client because their personal belongings haven't been told everything must go, right? Everything must go. I mean, I know there are firms that are on that track, and that's a whole different market, and it's a whole different way of doing business. But it's nothing's staying in this room, sweetie. It's all going. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So, and it's like you said, it's to each their own and the way they run their firm. But I like this because we don't hear this that much, is what I'm trying to say. And I'm sure there's 9 billion designers out there go, I do this, you just don't ask us.
Well, and that's the real reason I started, was for what you just said, for the environmental and the sustaminity argument for that.
Okay.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, it's because, like I said early on in the conversation, I would come in and I would see that most people had enough stuff and had lovely things. They just needed to, pull it all together. But really, I was horrified at the waste, and just knowing that if we can rework a lot of things, it's just a better solution for the planet. And I really was starting this business from more of a nod to sustainability and reuse, and but not to say that we're going to need rugs, we're going to need lamps, we're going to need stuff for clients, and I'm not certainly being judgmental on how any other design firm works, because that's just not, it's just not realistic to think that you're going to go in and be able to have everything that you need to finish out a design. And so but ideally it's great to be able to think in terms of, what can we reuse? Or like in my store, we're always focused on made in America and items that are made from recycled, upcycled items. So when we are purchasing new things, we kind of try to take that approach as well. All right, so if we're going to have to purchase new things for this client, let's go to High Point and let's rip through all these showrooms that are made in America, which I just did a couple weeks ago. And happily, there are just many more opportunities for that now, to find items that are made in America and or made from upcycled items. So that's kind of the next layer, when we do have to kind of fill in. That's the other kind of arm or component of my business, is to really focus on, all right, if we do have to add to this job, how can we do it in a very thoughtful way?
Okay. And so let's move into that part of the discussion, because you do have a retail store as well, and is quite honestly, a whole separate business. I mean, let's be serious, right? So tell us about the retail store. Tell us about, would you say that you source 20%, 50%, 80% from your own showroom floor? Or maybe that's not the focus of having the store. Talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah, I'd say generally we're not sourcing from the store, maybe 10%, but I do have lovely clients that come in and they source from my store.
Okay.
That when they're looking for some finishing pieces, they'll come and shop. And I'm so, I really am not always a good cheerleader for myself, because I don't push the store. I try to really be, try to be a little bit neutral in that respect. But I will tell, I certainly, because I'm producing this design district map, I have sources all across town, other people in design store business and antique stores that I could tell people where to go. But a lot of them will come and check out what I've got, which is lovely. But, I will pull things or take pictures. If I'm trying to find a few pieces, I'll just say, hey, here's some stuff we've got in the store, because the store is at this point probably 60% vintage, which is part of my reuse focus, and 40% new product, which, as I mentioned earlier, we try to source made in America, or if it's from overseas, it's made from upcycled or recycled materials. And we have a lot of gift. It used to be more furniture oriented, but we've added more to our gift line, which is this made in America upcycled product line. And so it's, it's got a real gifty side to it too, so that people can come in and pick up design books and candles and that sort of thing. It's not everybody needs a piece of furniture all the time. Okay. So sometimes I'm lucky they'll be a good fit, but it's I'm sourcing from other areas typically for clients when I'm finishing up jobs.
Tell me a little bit about the store in the sense of the business model. Is the store profitable? Is the store a loss leader for the design firm? Where are we at with that?
It's profitable. I still say that design work is probably more profitable in the end because there's so much overhead with running a
Right.
retail store, truly. And staffing, which is always a nightmare. And, there's just, it's a lot. I would say I don't recommend it all unless you really have lost your mind. Um, no, I truly love it. I do love interacting with the customers. I love it. I have a really we have a great designated office area for the design side of the business, which I didn't have in my previous location. Um, and it's a great way to kind of further my mission for people to kind of really look at reuse as a means to decorate and or explore made in America products, because I think that's become more important and more at the forefront of people's minds now
Mm-hmm.
when they're
Mm-hmm.
shopping. I think seeing, of course, a lot of the products we sell have little American flags, but we have signage all through the store, either a recycling sign or made in America. Sometimes it's both made in America and recycled. And we do a lot of signage. And there's my mission statement is written on the back wall behind the cash register. And just I think it's another way for us to subtly message about what we're doing that ties into the design work that we're doing. And a lot of times we're very lucky because we get people that come into the store that love what we're doing, and it's very funky. It's kind of got a little fun. It's very designerly, very vignetted, but it's definitely got funky mannequins hanging from the ceiling on bed springs, for example. So it's
Okay.
got a very funky element. Guys typically like the store because it's just a funky vibe to it.
Mm-hmm.
But we're very lucky because that vibe and the messaging translates into design clients too. We get
Okay.
we get several design clients who walk through the doors of the store who maybe haven't found me because of the website. So that I think that it's a good marriage because I know if they like my store, they're going to like what I'm going to do for them as a designer too.
Okay. And if I come into your store, a stranger in town, is it clear that you also have design services, or do I have to, or do you prefer that I poke and start to prod and ask questions and show the level of seriousness that I am?
Um, it's it's obvious in that it says interior design services on the office window, I guess
Oh,
in that
okay. That's what I'm
respect.
saying. In
Yeah,
other words,
yeah,
okay, right. So
yeah,
I'm walking by and it's obvious to me I can go in cash and carry, or there's a designer in there that I can hire.
yep,
Okay.
yep. It's pretty
Okay.
obvious. And then my all my employees know to, if I'm there in the store, which is I'm kind of in and out, I'm wearing so many hats. I'm either on a buying trip at the store, out on a client job site, or, but I am keeping office hours. So if I'm there, then they'll pull me out so I can answer questions, but they all are able to, answer some basic questions and then make sure that they have my business card to get in touch. But a lot of times people just are walking by the back side of the stores where the offices and the kitchen are, and they see the sign, and that sometimes prompts people to go to the front desk and say, well, tell me about, your design services. And
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
so, yeah.
And is it the sort of store where what percentage is the product that is, well, you said you're only selling about 10% off the floor to your interior design projects. Is that what you told me?
Probably. That's just my best guess
Right, right. So
because
it's a guess.
I'm not pushing it, and to be honest with you, it's probably higher because like I said to you, I'll get clients that will come in either during the process or after we finished, and they'll be picking up extra things. So they
Yes,
are.
they're your clients and they're
Yeah,
sourcing
right.
themselves. Okay. So, but here's
Yes.
where I'm going. Pretend that you have a young designer sitting here with you that is contemplating opening up a storefront because their expectation is that it is going to do two things. It is going to fill their pipeline and give them a feeling of, as they grow maybe their business or their family grows with their business, give them flexibility. What are we saying to that designer?
Give them
You're out of your
flexibility.
mind, right? Like, are we saying that? I mean, are we saying, because it's a whole separate business.
It is.
You have a passion for it, right? This is, in other words, I think what I'm getting at, and I'm being cryptic and I'm sorry, because I feel like that I can hear that you are so committed to expressing and to showcasing the made in America, the vintage, the recycle, the reuse, that no matter how difficult it is to run this store, you're not looking at it as difficulty. You're looking at it as part of the mission of what you are put on this planet to do. And I feel like running a store and maintaining inventory and maintaining, is there 40,000, candles in this place, or is there 22,000, right? And did this piece that I buy this piece on a buying trip and 3 seasons later it's still sitting here and it cost me $1,000 and nobody's buying it? I feel like that. It's almost like, it's not the save the baby marriage, right? I mean, save the marriage baby, right? It's like the store is a thing. And I think you have to have a knack and a passion to run a store like this that requires a lot of attention. And you don't have it to do something else. But I have not run a store like this. So I'm asking you, actually.
Yeah, and I think there's a way to do a model, because there's a couple gals in town that have stores and are designers as well. And I think they are more geared for new product that can be placed on job sites. So they're very focused on that. So it would kind of tie in and be a natural extension of their design work. So it's a totally different model, right?
Understood.
And that can be very successful. You're running your design business out of the storefront. You've got the product ready at hand to place on these job sites, particularly if they're doing, a lot of these gals are doing, builder, models, that sort of thing,
right,
spec houses and stuff, right? So they're ready to go. Totally different model, more geared toward the design. Mine is the crazier model, which it's why I'm wearing 2 hats. Right. But and what I'm trying to do is, because I'm a lady of a certain age in her mid-50s who's trying to think of her exit plan with a husband who's semi-retired and asking me when that is. So we have slowly over the last 5 years gone more and more and more and more to the gift and the new, because my store manager, who's been with me, bless her heart, for almost 3 years, she has gone to the New York gift show with me. So we are sourcing more and more of the gift product. I started off 90% vintage, 10% new. And now, like I said, it's about 60 vintage, 40. So because the vintage, you're looking at her.
That's a bear. You got to go and find it, right?
That's me and my big Nissan Envy, my big truck, going around. I have a house in the mountains of North Carolina. I'm going around northeastern Tennessee, Georgia, South Carolina. I'm doing a big 90-minute loop. Great time to listen to your podcast. but it's it's
time consuming. It's not a retirement job.
No, and it's loading the truck. It's very physical work. And, my husband, God love him, he's the one helping me load the truck a lot of the times. So we're kind of, edging more toward the new product to maybe where it'll flip, where it's 40% vintage, 60% new, right? So I can still go out and talk to my lovely picker gentleman who I love. I love hearing all these stories with these deep Southern accents and these gentlemen and how they found these items. And I love that. I love engaging with these people. They're so much fun, and they just help me create this vibe in my store, because I have truly this funky elements that, I might have like a French, chest with this giant street sweeper brush above it that we've turned into a mirror, this very funky mix. And these guys help me pull it all together. And I would be very sad to not talk to them anymore and not do that. But it's not sustainable for me to do that level of vintage buying for, however many more years. So that's why we're shifting, where we don't want to lose the vibe of the store, where we always are going to have that vintage element, but where we're able to phone up a vendor from the New York gift show and say, hey, send me 2 boxes of books.
Right.
Hey, right. So that's, and then the FedEx man walks in with his dolly and my employees unload it. Yay, job done. And I'm wiping my hands going, that was easy.
Right. And you sell it and you make some money on it and you're done.
Right. So that's, so there is this, forward thinking. You have to always be revisiting your business plan and just constantly on top of it. The marketing, all aspects of it. But for me right now, it's like, all right, what's the exit plan? Because I love what I do, but we've got to figure out, where are we going? So that's what we're slowly moving toward, so that I'm not giving the business up entirely, but just that it's taking a little load off me and this whole vintage shopping aspect of it, which like I said, I love, but it is a tremendous amount of work, and I have to balance it, right? Because I've got the designer hat, I've got to be working on, plans and clients, and I've got the shop, so it's, not being a 7-day-a-week job anymore, trying to make it more 5 or 6, trying to get in that realm. And that's what I'm going toward. And it's hard. It's always a constant struggle.
Right. Okay. So there is an avenue in there for somebody who feels like that it could possibly be somewhat of a pipeline feeder but not as burdensome. So the point is that maybe it's a select half a dozen or a dozen pieces, but you sell the piece and then it goes out. And if it was a good seller and it sold quickly, you put it in again. But if it really sat there for 3 months and nobody wanted it, you don't redo it again. So I hear what you're saying, a completely different model. And I like the distinction. I appreciate you making that for me. So now, last thing I want to talk to you about is the design district in Raleigh. You have put this together. The neighborhood in your city of Raleigh has a certain number of stores that were design and home related. They existed I understand from the conversation we had, they existed before, but you took a look and noticed that something was missing from this collection of stores. Tell us the proactive thing that you did.
Well, quite selfishly, actually, 5.5 years ago when I was opening my storefront, I wanted to look at different ways to market and, get the word out. And I was just saying, why isn't there a map? There's so many antique stores, home decor stores, designer stores in this kind of 2-mile radius. I could see the map in my head. I could draw this little dotted line, and I'm like, I can't believe nobody's done this. Well, I'm going to do it. So, grab the domain and just go ahead and go start knocking on doors. I'm in the middle of upfitting this building, was my first location. And I'm, going out and buying all this vintage stuff, working with clients. And I'm also going and knocking on doors and telling people, hey, you want to join my map? And they're like, what? And
what's a map?
they said, what map? And I said, well, it doesn't exist yet. It's just in my head. And so got everybody.
I just got a flash of. I had to interrupt you. When the guy comes into your showroom and he says to you, do you want to buy an ad on this placemat that goes in the diner, the paper ads?
Yep, that was me.
There you are. Except yours is a much better idea. Go ahead.
Yep, so not the crazy cat lady, I'm the crazy map lady. So anyway, but generally, you met with some pushback from certain people who, again, don't really understand the whole notion of marketing and what we have to do to all kind of band together. And it's, we thrive in numbers. It's not that because somebody goes to my store one day and the map doesn't mean it's taking business away from you. And I always feel like it's a karma thing. What ultimately people kind of got when we were talking about it was that if I sit there one day in my store and I circle all the locations on the map for a farm table, that I know these people are going to have a farm table for you, that person's going to come back to me one day.
Yes.
Because they're going to say, that nice lady told me where to go find my farm table. I'm going to go back and finish out with some accessories from her store. Right? It's karma.
It is.
Karma.
I love it.
And so that was the whole notion that I really sold people. And I said, we're not competing with each other. We're working together. And that really brought people together. So we had, I think that first year we had 24 strong on the map and kept for a couple years. And then I noticed this was a certain area near Five Points where my business is. And then I noticed downtown, which is sort of a separate area. And there's all the art galleries are down there. Some really cool, funky stores are down there. We also have restaurants on the map because, of course, when you shop, you need to stop and get a glass of wine or a bite to eat.
You're really basically laying out like a design crawl for people, right? It's instead of a pub crawl, you're laying out a design crawl. And they need to eat along the way so they can finish the crawl.
Yeah, I do not want hangry ladies coming and shopping at my store, right? So absolutely, it was that combination of restaurants, and actually some kind of fall into both categories. We have a couple really adorable stores that also have a restaurant too inside, which is fabulous. So they get a special notice on the map. But anyway, we just noticed that downtown had their own thing going. So then I expanded the map. It was Design District Raleigh on the front side. And then what we coined DDR, Design District Raleigh Downtown, was on the backside. So then we grew the map to really kind of have two, distinct districts. And it's been great. And now we find that people, new stores that are opening up will say, I want to find a place in the district. I want to be on the map. So they understand, the beauty of having this band of people together and working together. And we have a website and social media that complement the map, and we distribute 30,000 maps a year.
Wow. It's such, it's funny. I'm going to call you out on something. When you first started the discussion on this, you said, well, quite selfishly, I came up with this idea when I was getting ready to open up my first location in Raleigh. And I have to say, my brain went quite selfishly. My brain went quite brilliantly, right? Like that was a brilliant marketing idea on your part, Carole. I'm just going to say. So I think that it's everything you said. It served you, but you're serving so many other people in your area, the other business owners in your area, but also you can see and hear how you're serving the consumers in your area as well. And isn't that the whole point of our marketing, is that we want to let people know what it is that we do that helps them?
Yes. And, I'm glad you brought up the customers, because I think they, more than anyone, members on the map, are so appreciative. And it's not just out of towners. We're in the Triangle. So we have three cities: Raleigh, Durham, Chapel Hill. We have a lot of Durham and Chapel Hill people that shop in Raleigh because we have more stores, just by our sheer size. But it's not just those people or out of towners. It's the locals who come up from the suburbs, and they come in and go, I didn't know all these stores existed. I didn't know. So they're so appreciative. And that, if I get one thank you a week from a customer saying, I love this map, thank you so much, that makes my week, right?
That's
because
awesome.
they have this tool. They're trying to finish their house. They can take it. They can't do it in one day because it's too much to accomplish in one day, but they'll chunk it out. And sometimes I'll sit there. I mean, I might sit with the person for a half hour and circle like I did for the farm table situation,
Right.
But I might circle and say, you know what, this little chunk is good for one day, and this is like another day, and help them chunk it out, or help them chunk it out by what they're looking for.
Right,
I know, okay,
right.
all the mid-century folks in town, all right, you got to go here, here, and here. These guys have mid-century for days, right? And this person's got the farmhouse look, and this person's got, painted furniture. This, so I know, more than anybody else on the map, because I interact with all these people.
Right.
I know
you
whatever
go around and speak to them
Yeah.
and ask them if they want to be part of it and so forth, right?
Yeah, and
I love it.
Yeah, and I use them too. Because I
right,
don't always have
because
it
here
in
you
my
are in your
store.
projects, right? You could go in and find it
Yep.
from these places. I think it's awesome, and there's so many communities across all of, I was going to say America, but of course the podcast is going to 120 countries, so across the world, that have this thing where you said, like, you moved into and were about to open your first location, and you took a look around, and I think I love it, and of course I'm not even going to start the whole can of worms about how professional this is done. We're not talking about like a stick paper map here. We're talking about a real deal. You have a real map. It's colorful. It's beautiful. It's professionally developed. The website is professionally developed and so forth. So it is a whole other animal to do this at the level that you have done it. But for somebody listening that speaks to them like it did to you, I think it's a terrific thing to do to not revitalize, because it doesn't necessarily mean that you weren't a vital community beforehand, but to bring that cohesiveness, to bring that energy of the identification of this whole design area is kind of fun. I love it. I love it. So tell people the website for this so they can see this, because it's outstanding the way you've done it. It's remarkable.
Oh, well, thanks in large part to our friend Nicole again.
There
She
you
helped
go.
pull that together. Can't say enough. It's www.designdistrictraleigh.com. Spelled out exactly like it sounds. And for anybody out there listening, I've been to cities. That's the first thing I want to pick up when I'm out, visiting somewhere. I want to pick up the map, because a lot of cities have done this. And I could tell you, sometimes it's just as simple as a kind of bigger than a bookmark, right? There's only 10 stores, but they're all close together, and they've all banded together to just go to their local printer and print off a little bookmark. Oh, it's a great tool, right? Or something maybe a little bit larger, but it can be done on a much simpler scale. And it's just such a great marketing tool for all these little businesses to join together and have something, because anybody coming around to their store, they're going to want to go to other stores just like yours. And they're going to be so appreciative to have that little piece of paper or whatever. I even had it was a bunch of thrift stores and consignment shops that were all owned by the same guy. And he had a photograph thing in all his stores. Not a photograph, I'm sorry, a Xerox copy of 8 stores that he owned. This guy owned all 8 of them. And it was just like Xerox. It was nothing fancy. And I was like, I hung on to that piece of paper like it was the Bible. I hung on to it because I'm like, all right, so now I'm going here. And it had directions on how to get to each place. It's a great tool. Anybody who is doing retail out there and potentially sees, like-minded businesses nearby, it's an easy thing to do, to just do it on a simpler scale. They don't have to kind of go all out.
Well, and you have to have the mind of, like you said, of being sharing and inclusive and understanding that, yes, sometimes somebody's going to look on the map and go to you, and sometimes they're going to go and look on the map and go to me, and maybe they wouldn't have known that I was there and they only would have gone to you. But it all goes around and comes around at the end of the day if everybody is utilizing it in the way it's intended, which is to benefit the greater community, and then it comes back to you.
Yes, absolutely.
Right. Because we all know the people who would be like, I'm not going to tell everybody about her store.
Oh, yes.
Oh, man. Well, I think it's awesome. I think that it's really fun, the different ways that you have leaned into what's so important to you. And I just say it one more time. I should save it for the summary, but I'm not going to. I want to say one more time that so often a designer will say to me, I don't know what my only is. I know Fred tells me I have to have it, but I don't know what it is. And this is a perfect example of the only not having to be this big, huge idea, just something that very quietly is something that's important to you. And how do you express it and show it through the work that you do? And I think you do an awesome job at it, Carole.
Well, thank you, Luann. I appreciate that so much.
Yeah, I really do. I think it's terrific. So I can't thank you enough for being here. And would you tell everybody your website before you leave so they can see that beautiful website?
Absolutely. It's www.formandfunctionraleigh.com. It's a mouthful, and and is spelled out.
Okay. Good. All right. formandfunctionraleigh.com. Well, thanks so much for being with me today. Appreciate it. I'm happy to learn about your business, Carole.
Well, thank you, Luann. It's been an honor.
So, how, is your brain reeling from that idea? I love the idea of creating the map. I mean, believe me, that's a big undertaking. But you see, that comes back from Carole's career, where she was in event planning and marketing, right? I mean, that's the thing. Her brain clicks that way. That's what we always talk about, taking the things that you know how to do from either being a parent or being in another position or watching what your parents did when you were growing up and transferring that. And so I would say to you that I love the idea of what she did. I love the way she went all the way to complete perfection with the idea of creating the map. And you have to go to her website and take a look at them. They're really something else. But the truth is that you don't have to take it to that level to get some success. Okay. So what I'm suggesting is if you're in a little area that has got even 2 or 3 like-minded boutiques, right? So one could be whatever. I'm not even going to wonder about it, right? But the point is that you could just get together and organize events and say, how about if I have an event on this particular Thursday night and you tell all your people on your email list and you put little sign in your shop, and then the next month we'll do it at your place. And so, I mean, that's like the baby steps version, because you know how I am. I love a fully fleshed out, amazing idea, but I can't stand it when the idea seems so complicated that I don't even bother to start it. And so the baby step is that you could literally just organize a monthly or every other month event and coordinate with the like-minded businesses in your area. And of course, if you have the brilliance that Carole has to take it all the way to the finish line and create a map, all more power to you. Okay. So, and the other part of the conversation that I just wanted to touch on is, there's 2 things. There's 2 parts of this conversation. And the first part is that Carole opened this store of hers when she turned 50. And so this is a message to anybody out there that is trying to figure out their next thing. So I have a particular friend out there, Jerry, I'm talking to you. This 2019 is the year of Jerry. And Jerry has been looking for her next thing. And what is it going to be? And I want you to know that it's never too late. You figure it out, jump on it, make it happen, because the next 30 or 40 years are going to pass one way or another. So for you listening that are 23, 25 years old, I know it seems crazy that we start these projects in our 50s and 60s. I remember, being amazed when I would read stories about women and men that didn't take up painting until they were 55 years old and they became famous painters and artists. And I remember thinking, oh my God, such gumption at that ancient age to start painting. Well, it's not so old now. I got to tell you, I really have to tell you, I feel like I did when I was 25, and I'm sure Carole does too. And I know, Jerry, I know you do too. So, all right, what's your next idea? Okay, do it. Don't think about it. Don't wonder. Don't wait. Don't wish for. Don't think it's too late. It's not too late. Do your thing. Just make it happen. Okay. All righty. And I have to tell you, if you're looking for inspiration, I'd love to be part of that for you. And I am doing my darndest to create the most inspirational event that you could possibly sit your little fanny at. I want you to please think about coming to Luann Nigara Live. It's about the conversation. We are going to meet in March, on March 30th, 31st, and April 1st in New Jersey at the Hilton at Short Hills. And we are going to have 12 live, basically podcast presentations with the experts that I have gathered to join me in my second book, The Things I Learned from a Well-Designed Business, the Power Talk Friday Experts. It's going to be a celebration weekend. We're launching the book that weekend, but we are going to get together and we are going to talk, learn, meet, hang around, be together, and really inspire each other to do our best in 2019. So I hope you'll think about joining us for that event. Tickets, again, you can get all of this information on my website, but the link you can go direct for the event, Luann Nigara Live. It's about the conversation, is luannlive.com. luannelive.com. That's luannelive.com. Okay, thank you for joining me today. I hope that Carole has inspired you to think about one thing that you have been putting on a shelf that you should decide, make a change, do. You know, like her career has 3, 4, 5 different, turns in it. Just what is it for you? Figure it out. But you know what you have to do when you figured it out? You must decide to act. Okay? Decide to be excellent. Thanks so much. Thank you so much for joining me again today. This podcast is a production of WindowWorks, your resource for custom window treatments and awnings. To learn how we can help you on your next interior design project, go to www.windowworks-nj.com. And if you're interested in working with me on your business, either through masterminds or one-on-one coaching, or you want to know how to get my book, The Making of a Well-Designed Business, or you just want to know what's going on in the podcast land and where I'm going to be, all of that is found at luannelive.com. Thank you so much. Have an excellent day.